In today's note, we're going to be looking at the carbon cycle. What the carbon cycle is, it is a biogeochemical cycle. And basically what a biogeochemical cycle is, it's basically just all the ways that we can move matter throughout our environment. In this case, the matter in particular is carbon. As well as looking at the carbon cycle, we're just going to be taking a look at cellular respiration and photosynthesis because these are two important processes in the carbon cycle. So photosynthesis, what photosynthesis is, it is the method that plants use to gain nutrients. So what they do is they take carbon dioxide or CO2 and water, and they use that to make sugar, which is their energy or their nutrients, and oxygen. So this is the main way that plants gain nutrients, and it is one of the most important ways because the oxygen that it produces is what we use to breathe. So this is why it's important to have plants, have trees, have vegetation, and all of that. So basically, if we were to represent photosynthesis as a word equation, we would see it as water plus carbon dioxide plus sunlight equals sugar plus oxygen. And if we want to write it as a chemical equation, we have H2O plus CO2 plus E for the energy equals C6H12O6, which is just the chemical formula for sugar, and plus O2, or oxygen. Cellular respiration. Cellular respiration is kind of the human or the animal equivalent to photosynthesis. So the oxygen that is produced by photosynthesis is used up by humans and animals in a process called cellular respiration. So every time you're breathing in oxygen, and that oxygen is helping the process of cellular respiration, which is basically how your cells get energy, how your body gets energy, and so on. So as a word equation, it's basically just the reverse of cellular respiration. We take oxygen plus sugar, and that creates carbon dioxide plus water plus energy. Right? So the oxygen and the sugar that we intake, our body uses that to produce energy, but a byproduct is carbon dioxide, which is what we breathe out. And as a chemical equation, again, it's just the reverse. C6H12O6 plus O2 equals or yields, which is what the arrow means, it yields or produces CO2 plus H2O plus energy. So the biogeochemical cycles. So basically the idea is that particles that make up matter cannot be created or destroyed. Right? This is going back to the chemistry unit. This means that all nutrients must be obtained from chemicals that already exist in the environment. Because we cannot create anything new, all the nutrients that we have, everything that we use to keep our bodies going, everything that plants use, that needs to be obtained from things that already exist. And basically the cycling of these nutrients is called biogeochemical cycles, which we just talked about. So basically it's just that process of these nutrients getting passed from one thing to another. So while large quantities of carbon or of the carbon cycle cycle through cellular respiration and photosynthesis, much of it is also stored in reservoirs. So while there's a large amount of carbon going through our bodies, from the carbon dioxide, through plants, there's also a lot of it that's stored elsewhere. And there are 6 steps in the carbon cycle. So first is fossilization. So this is where organic matter kind of decays and it fossilizes. So part of the carbon cycle, fossil fuels are part of that. Decay, so again, animals or living matter decaying is part of the carbon cycle. Respiration, so again, breathing or cellular respiration, carbon dioxide is a byproduct of that or a product of that, so that also produces it. Photosynthesis, we talked about, so again, plants taking carbon dioxide and producing oxygen from that, so again, they're still using carbon, they're using carbon, so they are part of the cycle. Burning, so anytime we burn organic matter, we are releasing carbon into the environment. whether it's just burning trees or plant matter, organic matter, or even burning fossil fuels. And finally, feeding. So again, when we eat or when animals eat or they eat plants, they're consuming carbon, right? So that, again, it's all part of that. Inorganic carbon storage. So carbon in inorganic form, so this is not living, so carbon in non-living matter, they're stored in three places. So they're stored as a gas, so as CO2, carbon dioxide. That's what will be used by plants. It's what we exhale. In a liquid form, it exists as dissolved CO2. So this is going to be used by phytoplankton and aquatic plants. So basically the same thing as cellular respiration, just it's being used in aquatic environments. And it exists as a solid as carbonate. So organic carbon storage, so this is in terms of living matter. So carbon in organic matter is stored in the organisms or in organisms. And the organic carbon must be added back into the cycle by decomposers. So the inorganic carbon that gets released or cycled back into the environment from either humans or animals breathing from cellular respiration and then going to plants or in the aquatic environment or burning the material. But any organic carbon has to be turned or added back to the cycle by decomposers. As well, organic carbon may also become fossil fuels. So again, that's where we get our fossil fuels from, plant life or organic matter that fossilized or decayed a long time ago, and then adding heat and pressure and time. Human activity in the carbon cycle. So human factors can have dramatic effects on the carbon cycle. So burning fossil fuels releases stored carbon into the atmosphere. Right? So again, fossil fuels are a source of carbon. By burning it, we're releasing that carbon back into the atmosphere. Again, remember, matter doesn't just disappear. It can just be broken down or change forms, but it doesn't disappear. So when we burn the fossil fuels, the carbon in that gets released into the environment. So this causes organic carbon to be released much quicker than it normally would or would have. If you think of burning fuel, right, in nature or naturally, or take out cars and everything like that, if you just look in nature, you're not burning fossil fuels at a rate that we currently are, right? You're not going to have cars or animals that don't need cars, or they don't need the power or the electricity production. So the burning of carbon or of organic carbon causes much more carbon to be released than there normally would be. And here we are just looking at kind of an overview of the carbon cycle, where all the different things or all the different areas of having it, right? So we have fossil fuel emissions, we have, so that's just burning, anything that's burning fossil fuel, so cars, factories, power plants, whatever you want. We have our coal, oil, and gas reservoirs in limestone and dolomite. There's aquatic biomass, there's land biomass. There's carbon in the ocean we talked about in liquid form, right? And then we have kind of all the processes that are involved, right? You have your photosynthesis, which is taking carbon and putting it into the plants. You have the respiration and decomposition, so that's where the carbon in organic matter is coming back into the environment. You have diffusion, so some of that gets absorbed and goes back into the atmosphere. So again, just all the different areas of where you can find carbon in the environment, and some of the processes that involve or are involved with returning it or cycling it through that environment. So again, just look at the carbon cycle, just make sure you know kind of the general overview, the two main processes, cellular respiration and photosynthesis, basically just an understanding of what those processes are and how they use carbon. But we'll look at two other cycles in further notes.